The Verdict with World Pool.
Hi there everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. It was a low-key week on Racing TV, but we've got lots of good racing to have a look at in the programme, lots of data for us to analyse. In particular, of course, we will concentrate on the Group 1 at Newmarket on Saturday, the Sun Chariot, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. But we'll take you further back in the week to start with, to Tuesday at Cork, where there were some interesting performances from a couple of horses. Here are the winners on the day, with the times quite slow, and no horse got very close to the Racing Post standard at all. We'll concentrate on Bloom, who won the 3:45 over a mile in 1:41.69, almost 3.5 above the Racing Post standard, and Purview in the 4:15 over a mile and a quarter. Time was all right, 2:13.56, 2.96 above, and indeed Purview's time the best on the card. Let's put that into context by looking at the RaceiQ time index for this meeting. 0 out of 10, remember, is the scale, and these races assessed based on the class of the race, on the ground that they faced, over the distance that they were running over. And the two races we're going to look at are the best two races as far as the RaceiQ time index is concerned. Race 5 over a mile, that's Bloom, 6.5 out of 10. And the mile and a quarter race for Purview, a 7 out of 10. The ground was officially described as good to soft, with a meeting average of 5.4. That's probably just about right. It might have been a little bit quicker than that. OK, let's start with Bloom in that 5th race then, over a mile. A Wootton Bassett filly out of a Galileo mare, Laburnum. They were over a mile. There's Bloom. She was drawn wide. She came out of stall number 14. And she got a good early position. She beat We Only Have Love from 16, and River Ara from stall number 7 was third. I want you to keep an eye on the horse who does finish third, River Ara. This is definitely a horse for your Racing TV tracker. Was very green, didn't know a lot, but ran on very strongly in the closing stages. Bloom from that wide draw has got pretty prominent. She was 6th fastest to 20 miles an hour, 2.72 seconds, and then she sat quite close to the pace. Now, a feature of racing at Cork overall is that they generally finish fast. The finishing speed percentages are quite high, so races at Cork normally possess strong finishes, and that's exactly what we got here, with the winner coming home 108.4% compared to the par, 106.77. So it's quite a high par. It's a high bar, if you like, for how fast horses finish through the final 2 or 3 furlongs at this particular track. If We Only Have Love got something of an easy lead, went quite hard through the first couple of furlongs, and then settled the pace down mid-race with a 13.07 at 12.6, and then quickened up through the third last furlong, furlong 6, 11.79. Bloom's tracking, though. She's got to the outside and got a clear run. Look at the horse highlighted right out the back, the third horse, River Ara, going absolutely nowhere at this stage. She's very green in rear and cajoled along, but she does run on really well in the closing stages, and this was just her 4th start. She's very much learning on the job. As for the winner, furlong 7, 11.49 seconds. That was par, and that's getting her into contention now to try and catch a horse who got a bit of an easy lead out in front, but Bloom is finishing off strongly. 11.96 seconds par final furlong was enough to beat the 12.29 of the runner-up. Look at the third now. Big gains towards the outside, River Ara, and she was the only horse in the race to run a fast final furlong once the penny dropped. And she got going all too late with an 11.86, the fastest furlong in the race was River Ara, widest of all. Watch Bloom now. She runs around under pressure. She's coming to challenge under Rory Cleary. Look at this here. She jinks everywhere. She's all over the spot. But eventually she gets the hang of things and runs on. It's just her 2nd career start. She'd run OK when very weak in the market on her debut. She was too green to do herself justice. But on this particular occasion, she knows a lot more and ran on really well. This is the race that Minnie Hawk, of course, runner-up in the Arc, a day or so ago, won last year, and one suspects that Bloom is a pretty good filly, and there's going to be a lot more to come from her, particularly next season when she stepped up in trip. River Ara for your Racing TV tracker. OK, let's have a look at this race in terms of the RaceiQ data. We've got the colour-coded sectionals for you here, from very slow to very fast. Just go to the second horse, if we only have one, because that's the horse that made the running. Went quite fast early on to establish a lead, 11.94 second furlong, only horse under 12 seconds, and then steadied it down really through furlongs 3, 4, 5 and 6 before kicking in the home straight. 23.45 Bloom coming home in. And look at the third, who I pointed out, staying on strongly, faster than the winner in those last 2 furlongs, 23.42. Bloom's a really nice horse for next season. River Ara one to follow. OK, let's move on from the Bloom at Cork to the big race of the day there, the Navigation Stakes, listed event over 10 furlongs that was won by Purview, and in a very good time, the best time of the meeting. Purview from stall 2 beat Cadogan from 8. Iowa City from stall number 3 was back in 3rd spot. Let's have a look and see how this unfolded for Purview, trained by Dermot Weld. Colin Keane was on board a little bit slowly into stride. Look, 3.04 seconds. That's pretty tardy in the grand scheme of things. Only 7th fastest in this race. And therefore, Colin had to sort of take his medicine and sit in 5th spot there with the sheepskin noseband on in a race that was run at an even gallop, really. They didn't go mad, but they didn't crawl either. Raenzi took them along early on through sensible enough fractions, 13.28 the second, and then picked it up a little bit to 13.18, 13.19, 13.04, 12.55. So they went pretty evenly, and that's evidenced by the finishing speed percentage that the winner has produced, 110.45. Ordinarily, that would be very high indeed. Means that Purview finished the race 10.45% quicker, and he ran the early part of it. But as I said earlier on, at Cork, the finishing speed percentage pars are pretty high, 109.13 over 10 furlongs for a race of this nature on this ground at Cork. So just above that. The nature of this success was that Purview was able to quicken up in good style in the penultimate furlong and just had too much speed for all of his rivals on this particular occasion. This is a horse who's lightly raced, second to Delacroix in the Derby trial at Leopardstown. He's got some very good form to his name, and there could be more to come given how lightly raced he is, and he does possess a good turn of foot. He carries his head a bit high. I think that's why he wears that sheepskin noseband, because he has a tendency to look at the stars, and he doesn't necessarily convince when he's first asked, but he gets the job done. He picks up really well. He's just about last off the bridle, coming towards the outside of the field, and he's definitely going best, tracking Cadogan, who's a horse in good form, coming to the 2 pole. And there's that very fast furlong, 11.36 seconds. Only horse in the race to run a faster than par furlong in the penultimate furlong. And he maintains that to a degree. 12.02 through the final furlong was a par sectional, and he's going away from Cadogan, and it wasn't given a hard time in the closing stages. 34.85 his closing 3 furlong split to give him that high finishing speed percentage, and the only horse in the race to go under 35 seconds. So overall, the data's pretty positive about him, bar his start, very tardy to get up to speed. Took his medicine, sat in, and then quickened pretty well in that penultimate furlong. The fact that he does possess that turn of foot will always stand him in good stead. And the overall time, 2.33 seconds under the RaceiQ par. So this was a pretty good time overall, producing a decent RaceiQ time index as well of 7, with the average at 5.4. So overall, I think we're going to have to be positive about him. He just hangs about a little bit when he's first asked to go about his business, but he did show that he possesses a turn of foot, and there's going to be more to come from him possibly next season. That's how the race panned out in terms of the sectionals. Fair bit of blue in there. It was a bit stop-start, but overall it was quite even. Raenzi, second to the bottom there, was a horse that made the running early on, and it was just an evenly run race given the FSP. And there's that furlong, look, 11.36 seconds, where he quickened from 3rd to 1st, and that sealed the deal for Purview. OK, from Cork to Kempton we go. I think we've got a really nice performance to have a look at in terms of the data from £10, who was quite impressive over 6 furlongs in the 6 o'clock contest. Here are the winners from Kempton that night. It was a bumper card, and the times weren't too bad, actually. £10 this time, really good. He was only 0.7 above the Racing Post standard, the best time on the card by quite a while. Kit Gray Gabriel put up a good time as well in the 7 furlong contest at 5:30. We concentrate on £10. Let's have a look at the RaceiQ time index. Got a 6.2 here, with the meeting average being 5.6. In a very slowly run mile 3 furlong race, being the first race on the card and the 5th race. That's often the way with mile-and-a-half races at Kempton. It brings the meeting average down. I'd say the conditions were standard rather than standard to slow. OK, let's have a look at this £10 performance. It was drawn wide and didn't have a very good draw really over this trip. 0.36 of a length disadvantage, according to the draw bias stats provided by RaceiQ. So stall 7 is where the winner came from. And then you've got the runner-up coming from stall 5, Divine Libra, and Al Shakab Storm from 3. So minus 0.36 length. So he's had a bit of a disadvantage already over this 6 furlong trip, because the problem is he could get posted wide, but he's able to, well, slide forward with no problems whatsoever, having been 3rd fastest to 20 miles an hour at 2.62 seconds, and then just sit in behind the pace, which was set by Marchogian. And he's got a lovely sit here, £10. He's there, ready to attack when he wants to. And I think he needed to be there because the early pace for a 6 furlong race was not furious at all. 14:33, 11:71, 11:81. You expect them to go a bit faster than that in a 6 furlong race of this quality. But all of the speed ramped up once they turned in. The final 3 furlongs from the winner, really impressive. There you go, 11.22 seconds fast through furlong 4. 10.9, which he's doing now, that's fast against par, and that gets him past the leader, and then he runs on strong enough with 11.77. The runner-up, Divine Libra, a bit quicker, coming between horses, 11.63. Had too much to do, and £10 was away and gone by then. Sharp turn of foot, 3 furlongs on the bounce that were faster than the RaceiQ par. Now, this is a horse who'd been 3rd in the Wokingham. He disappointed a little bit in the Bunbury Cup, and he's really untested over 6 furlongs. He's mainly been raced at 7 furlongs. But I think he might be a sprinter that we've got to keep an eye on next season, provided they want to continue with him, because he travels really strongly. He's got lots of raw pace, as evidenced by those 3 fast sectionals. He reached a top speed of 41.76 miles an hour. He's a fast horse, and he's able to quicken up. I think strongly run sprint races next season on the turf will seem to good effect. And one final point about him, he's unbeaten on synthetics. He's 3 from 3 on the synthetic surface. He clearly goes really well on the all-weather. So it'll be interesting to see if they try and find something for him on that, a more valuable prize than perhaps this condition stakes. But it's lightly raced. There's plenty more to come from him. And he's got one piece of remarkable data, which I'll give you now. His maximum stride length is 8.26 metres. You don't ever see that. You rarely see that in a horse. Sometimes you get 8 metres, but 8.26 metres, that's a big, long raking stride for £10. There's his data in terms of the sectionals. Look at those 3 fast ones, 11.22, 10.9, which put the field away, and 11.77. Sustained speed from £10, off a steady gallop, overcoming a draw bias and winning well. Let's move on to the weekend now and go to Newmarket. The big race of the week for Racing TV was the Sun Chariot Stakes, Group 1 for fillies and mares on the Rolling Mile at Newmarket. Here are the winners from that day. It was an excellent day's racing, and you can see that there's a number of times dipped under the Racing Post standard. Gel Pepper, Fallen Angel, 2.79 under the standard. This was a tremendous time performance from her, and Nana in the last just dipped under as well. Now, these times need to be looked at in the context of a very strong tailwind that was pushing them along up the Rolling Mile and suited horses that were ridden prominently. Time index, let's have a look. The average was at 8.1. You can see there's some really big scores. 10 out of 10 for Fallen Angel, producing a very good time, a triple-digit time form speed figure. And the first 2 times on the card were good as well. But let's get into Fallen Angel then. She's just completely and utterly relentless in this particular race. Her 3rd Group 1 on the bounce. And she came from stall 3, Blue Bolt from 5, Cinderella's Dream from stall number 9. They're split into 2 groups. I think being far side was probably the place to be. Lady of Spain and Cinderella's Dream perhaps inconvenienced by racing nearer the stand side. She's out like a bullet, 2.37 seconds to 20 miles an hour. And she makes every yard of the running and wins in convincing style. I think you could just about say this, of her 5 wins, is the best performance of her career. She didn't hang around out in front, but she just kept rolling. I know there's a tailwind pushing her along, but she's more than a second quicker than any other horse over a mile at the Rolling Mile this season. So this was a tremendous time performance from her. She's almost bang on par as well, so she's been rated really nicely out in front. It's a good performance from her overall, with a finishing speed percentage of 96.91. The par's 99.12. She hasn't got close to par because she's gone hard early on. 11.04, 10.96. She went through furlong 4, so they're really winging along for a mile race in the early part of it. That's only just halfway, and she's going sub-11. She's got sub-11 for furlong 5 as well, at 10.92 also. So very strongly run, went hard in the middle of the race, and she's got a little bit tired late on. But she saw off her rivals. She had them all in trouble a long way out, and 24.07 was her final couple of furlongs, compared to the runner-up Blue Bolt, 24.56, the third, 24.89. So she's way better than her rivals. She's able to keep going a lot better than them off strong fractions, and she's eased down just a tad in the closing stages. So could be a fair bit more to come from her, I'd have thought. James Doyle was on board in those Wath-Nang colours. You'd have to say he got it just about right out in front. If anything, he's gone a little bit too hard, but she didn't pay for that. Nothing could close her down. Cinderella's Dream was favourite in behind in the Godolphin Blue. She was a bit disappointing. She looked a little bit flat. Might be worth trying her over a bit further. Her final furlong rated as very slow against par of 13.18. And most of them actually had very slow final furlongs. The winner didn't, though. It was a slow final furlong. Not very slow, though. She kept rolling better than her rivals. This is one of the best time performances that we've seen this season. Here from Fallen Angel, and I do think she's aided when she gets a little bit of cut in the ground. I think that just helps her to stretch out. QE2 possibly for her now. They might go to Ascot with her. Why not? She's in great form, clearly, and she'll get the cut in the ground that she likes there. But I can't stress enough what a good time performance this was from her. Let's have a look at her sectionals. And you can see there, she's made every yard of the running, so we know the pace of the race, and we know it was pretty hard early on. Little bit of blue towards the end as she's getting tired, but she's got 11.04 second furlong, and then 3 sub-11s, 10.85, 10.96, 10.92. So the mid part of the race, pretty quick. Then 11.52, she's slowing down through the final 3 furlongs, then 11.41, then 12.66. But all the damage done from when the gates opened to halfway. OK, let's go to the Curragh on Saturday afternoon. I've got a nice 2-year-old to have a look at here. Here are the winners from the card on a day when they too had a bit of a tailwind. It was a blustery day at the Curragh. There were some slow times. Alpha was very slow, 13.79 above in that 4.02 contest. But we're going to have a look at Cameo, who won the second race over 7 furlongs, won 30.53, 7.43. Above the Racing Post standard. And these times are pretty slow. I think that's courtesy of the ground. Let's have a look at the RaceiQ time index. It was pretty testing. I think you could probably describe it as being soft overall, and a good performance in the third race over 6 furlongs. That was the 2:17 contest. Carla Ridge posting the best time of the day. But let's have a look at Cameo, 7.9, better than the meeting average of 7.5. And this was Cameo's 3rd career start. And she is improving hand over fist. This was a good performance from her. There she is from stall 7. She beats Together Now from stall 4 and Sinmara from 12. Together Now is a stable companion on debut, and she's very well related. She is a half-sister to City of Troy, so you want to keep a close eye on her and see how she shapes through this race. I think promising enough to put her in your Racing TV tracker. Cameo knew more, though, because she'd had a couple of runs, so she was away quickly, 2.59 seconds to 20 miles an hour. So she was the fastest. And thereafter, Wayne Lorden has dictated matters out in front. He's just run evenly, really. He's not gone too hard. He's not gone steady either. It's just an even gallop. He's gone 12.61 the second furlong, 12.63, 12.44. You get the idea. It's sort of replicating the furlongs as he just goes along. And she does pick up through the penultimate furlong with an 11.79. That's just par, and a 12.98 final furlong. Do keep an eye on the runner-up, Together Now. She fires the fastest final furlong in the race. She comes home with a 12.58. This is Cameo just upping the ante a bit in front, 12.03. 3. That's a par sectional for furlong 5. And then penultimate was 11.79. That's par as well. But that's all too much for her rivals. Look how they're toiling in behind. They're way behind Cameo. She's only pushed out hands and heels. A 12.98 final furlong. Now suddenly, Together Now is rolling in second place. Half-sister to City of Troy, coming home really strongly late on her debut. And she'll be one to stick in your track, along with River Ara from the same stable that we looked at earlier on. From Cork. But I really like this Cameo. She's done this in grand style. You could argue that she just got her own way out in front and that it enabled her to do what she did. But such was the impression that she created just under hands and heels. You'd have to think that she would have won this race whatever had happened, however the race had been run. Her finishing speed percentage was almost bang on par, 104.43. When that happens, you have to give plaudits to the man on board for getting the fractions absolutely spot on out in front. She's going to be pretty useful next year, as is the runner-up. Together Now, put her in your track. Right, there's the sea of brown, if you like. All those par figures for Cameo, look at that. Made the running and just went evenly, 12.61, 63, 44, 12.03. Picked up a little bit in the penultimate for 11.79, then got a bit tired. And look at Together Now, suddenly getting the hang of things with 11.96 penultimate and fastest in the race through the penultimate, through the final furlong, rather, to post a faster final couple of furlongs than the winner. So I think this is a pretty good race. The winner is clearly useful, and there's going to be a lot more to come from the runner-up who'll win one of these, no problem at all, before the season's out. Redcar Stage, their biggest flat meeting of the year on Saturday afternoon. It was the Redcar 2-year-old Trophy Day, and that's the listed race that we're going to have a look at in some detail after we've seen all the winners from the day. They had the Gainsborough on the card as well, won by Eliam. That was a 3.56 over 7 furlongs. We're going to look at Ardicia's win in the 2-year-old Trophy at 3.20. Times weren't too bad at all. I think they were pretty much in accordance with the going description of good to soft. Good in places. So let's have a look at the RaceiQ time index and see where Ardicia sits. Just a little bit above average for the meeting. The average was 4.9 and 5 score for Ardicia. I think those times are just indicative of just being a little bit of ease in the ground, and the first race brings the average down considerably. That was a very steadily run affair. Well, predictably, the 2-year-old Trophy was not a steadily run affair. In fact, it was completely and utterly the opposite. It was very strongly run. Look at this. It's a bit of a draw race. Winner from 15, second Golden Brown from 13, the third Argentine Tango from 12. Now, there's an interesting point to make about Redcar, is that normally you want to be on the far side. So you want to be left hand down out of the stalls and get to this far side, get on the tyre tracks and all that sort of thing. They're often talked about by pundits. But the rail's out, and look how far out the rail is. So they've negated that particular bias. And what happened is that horses drawn high, closer to the far side, have prevailed. Interestingly, they've almost chased the bias across the track. We saw with Copper Knight making all on the stands rail in the last that it was perhaps better to be away from that far rail, given what they'd done in terms of rail movement. Very strongly run race, that's what we've got here. Ardisia had to run 10.72 second furlong, 10.86 third furlong, having been 13th fastest to 20 miles an hour. So was slowly away, in rear. They went very, very hard, and this race completely fell apart. Look at this 6th furlong, final furlong for the winner. 12.9 seconds. That's really slow for a 6th furlong race. They've done all of their running early on, and consequently the FSP is 96.9 for a winner of a listed race. That's absolutely crawling through the final couple of furlongs. The par's 99.34. Just that, they went really hard early on. I think there's some horses to mark up perhaps a little bit. Isle of Fernandez from stall 5, big sheepskin noseband, white sleeves, red cap, made the running on that far rail and hung on in there for a long time off really fast fractions and finished 4th. That's a big run from Isle of Fernandez. I think there's going to be more to come from that. It was just about in front at this stage. And I'm going to mark up Argentine Tango, who came from a wide draw, so had a good draw, but was always prominent as well and ran a big race. But it's Ardisia, who's tough and game, who was able to just keep going best, really. You can see Golden Brown running on from the rear of the field. That was a better effort from that horse, the best of his career. But this was an attritionally run contest, really hard early on. Lots of green sectionals under the RaceiQ par to halfway, and then above the par after that. So it was survival of the strongest, really, here under the good to soft conditions in a very strongly run race. And it was Ardisia who prevailed under Oisin Orr. I wanted to show you this because you can see the top speeds were all achieved in the second furlong by every single horse in the race, bar Born Slippy at the bottom, the third furlong. And look at the fastest furlongs run by these horses. They've all gone under 11 seconds and flown along through the second furlong. 10.72 the winner, Golden Brown 10.74, 10.8 Argentine Tango, doing all of their running early on, and that's why they were so slow late on. Final furlong splits, the winner 12.9, 12.91 the second, 13.16 the third. So a bit of an upside down race, really fast early on, really slow late. Time now on the verdict for the World Pool Race of the Week. And for it, I'm going to take you to the United States of America, and we're going to look at a remarkable performance from a 9-year-old Cardem trained by Charlie Hills in the Woodford S, presented by FanDuel. It was a grade 2. He's in last at this stage, hanging, but he picks up in tremendous fashion. Dettori cajoling him to success here. He'd run quite well at Kentucky Downs prior to this. He's a Group 1 winner in the UK back in the day, but he looked like his form was nowhere near up to that standard. But somehow he's been revitalised going to the United States of America for Charlie Hills, who delighted in the winner's enclosure afterwards. And it was just a tremendous ride from Frankie Dettori to persuade this old boy to put his best foot forward once again. The race of the week, the win of the week, certainly in the United States of America, belonging to Cardem. That was the World Pool Race of the Week. Well, that's it for this week's edition of The Verdict. I hope you enjoyed looking back at those races with me. Two nice 2-year-olds, I think, in Bloom and Cameo, both from the Aidan O'Brien yard. But in terms of the data, there was one outstanding performance last week, and it came from Fallen Angel in the Sun Chariot at Newmarket. And I think she's destined for the QE2 at Ascot now on Kipco British Champions Day. And she'll be a player there, given what she achieved on the Rowley Mile on Saturday afternoon. That's it. See you next time.
The Verdict with World Pool.